Hey everybody, thanks for joining. In this video, a beginner will attempt to paint a Necron Canoptek Wraith. So for those that are new to the journey, my name is NFI Hammer and I am a beginner in the Warhammer and miniature painting scene. I started about 9-10 months ago in January of 2023 and I've been completely obsessed and loving the community. Everyone's super friendly and welcoming, and it's just a very nice group of people. So this is from the Necron Imperium magazine number 45, and it's got some interesting lore and tidbits in here. This magazine costs $20 dues in Australian dollars, and it's a really good value way of getting Necron models. This one, however, isn't a super deal because you need 3 of these to form a unit, so it'll cost you $60 dues, and you can get them for $85 from Games Workshop or $65 from other resellers, so it's not a huge saving compared to, say, the Necron Royal Court, which I did a video here, which is just an absolutely insane saving. The assembly of this model was a little bit finicky. I didn't hate it, but it was definitely up there in the difficulty scale. I'd say it's probably like an 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. So for beginners, there is a little bit of, struggle with this one. I think the issue is that each component needed to be glued together individually, whereas usually I like kind of dry fit the whole model together and then I glue it at the end. So that was a bit annoying, and one thing I would do differently next time is I glue each of the hands and Necron orbs onto the body, but I should have just kept them separate and painted them separately, which would allow me to get to all the nooks and crannies easier, and then at the very end kind of glue the arms on. So next time I'll try that, but this is what the model looks like when it's fully assembled. And I spray painted it with black primer that I got from Bunnings, this Rust-Oleum one for $17 dues. So I've got an airbrush that I did a whole video about. I'm trying to learn skills there because I've never done any airbrushing before. So I'm mixing some Runelord Brass and Lahiam medium together. I put in too much medium, so it's very runny here. And so I'm just pouring this into my airbrush container. This airbrush is a really cheap model, so it's good for me because I'm too scared to break anything. And I'm just applying a very thin coat here of the Runelord Brass onto the model. So this model I think looks really cool. It kind of gives me like shrimp prawn vibes. So one of the first vehicles I did was a Canoptek spider, which doesn't really look like a spider, but this guy looks really cool. It kind of looks like a scorpion, shrimp, prawn hybrid. And as an Australian, you know, we love a, prawn on the barbie, so
there's plenty of shrimps on the barbie.
Yeah, I feel like it's my patriotic duty. So this is what it looks like when it's dried. It definitely applies a very thin coat, the airbrushing, but the color is a little bit off. I think maybe because I diluted it too much. And yeah, I don't know if overall it's really worth it, to be honest, versus just painting it directly. But moving on, I've got Leadbelcher, which is another Citadel color, and I'm just applying that to the 6 back claws. So I use silver to signify kind of any sort of metal in the Necron that is kind of for practical uses. Brass I use as a kind of armor plating, and then I use Rhinox Hide as sort of a very tough metal like a claw or piercer or something like that. So I kind of shaking things up, and I'm using Warpstone Glow here, and I'm colouring in all the cracks and crevices with a watered down version of the paint because I'm trying to make those cracks look green, but I'm kind of getting it all over the model, which is a bit annoying. And then I'm going over everywhere that I want to have gauze energy, and I'm applying the Warpstone Glow in here as like a base coat of the darker green. I've not really bothered doing this before, so I'm kind of doing something a little bit different, but I'm just seeing how it's going to turn out. Then I'm using Moot Green, which is my normal green color, to represent that Necron energy glow, and I'm just going over it. And I notice immediately that it does kind of give it quite a bright green color straight away, or even on a single thin coat. And then I'm also painting the 3 reactor orbs on the back, as well as on the face and the gun, and on the underside, and then all the cords. This model actually ends up having quite a lot of Gauze energy compared to a lot of the other Necron ones. He's also got this kind of phallic looking gun underneath, and I completely forgot about it, so I painted that green as well. And then also the joints in the arms are also trying to paint green, but I did a really awkward job of this, and that's why I think I should have done that separately. So as I mentioned before, Rhinox Hide is something that I started doing with my Canoptek Spider, I think it was, the first one, just to kind of this really dark brown metal color to signify like sort of an indestructible type of metal on the Necron unit. And so I also painted the 3 little tips of the little spears the same color as well. So for the whips at the beginning, I've painted these with Runefang Steel, which is a very bright silver. And I noticed when I was painting it that they have these little gaps on it. And I thought, oh, well, I'll leave the gaps black, and that way it kind of creates an interesting pattern. And it reminded me of a bandy, which is a venomous snake that you get here in Australia. And I kind of liked the idea of this kind of poisonous Necron, so it kind of inspired me to go with the color scheme. So moving on, I've pulled this, I keep referring to it as the phallic gun because it just looks really weird. I just used a little bit of blue tack to hold it in position, and then I'm painting the core of that, this metallic blue-green Mr. Hobby Paints, which I really like this color. I kind of use it for kind of like Necron energy. And then I'm using Leadbelcher again. I'm following that bandy snake color scheme and painting every second vertebrae silver, just to kind of give it a more unique, distinctive pattern. So the ones with the little orbs on it, I've left black, and then the alternating ones I've painted silver. And then I'm just touching up the gun as well. And so these are the orbs I was mentioning, so I'm just going in painting these green as well. So as I said, there's a huge amount of green on these models. Like, I would say it's probably one of the biggest green models that I've painted in the Necron army so far. And then, because I did the spray painting, some of the Abaddon Black got painted over, so I'm painting in all the cracks. And then also anywhere else I've kind of missed or I've accidentally got paint over, I'm just kind of touching them up. So on this snake pattern, I'm going over the black ones. So again, yeah, I don't know if the airbrush was really worth it. I did a whole video about it if you're interested. And then I'm gonna fix up the green in the joints here as well. But yeah, I really wish I had not glued the claws on and was able to paint them separately and then glue them on only when I was finished. But it's kind of got an interesting, cool effect, and I'm cleaning up the whip for any silver that I got in there that I didn't want to. So now I've got the Runelord Brass out again that I started off with, and I'm just kind of going over and cleaning up all of the edges that I had got paint into, and I'm being very careful not to get any paint into those green crevices. I think I did a pretty good job. I think there's one section where I kind of, at the very end, I got a bit tired and was rushing and I got a little bit of paint in. But I'm also fixing up the little clasps in the middle and just anywhere else that I think could use a little bit of touch up. And I painted some of the gun down the bottom brass as well, just to give it a bit of extra color. So this is a part of a model I got from a Canoptek Reanimator. I've got 2 of them, so I decided to cut the base decoration off one and apply it here. And just to kind of give it a little bit more interesting base, because it's a bit boring. And so I thought I'd use my Astrogranite again, because I didn't want the base to be very high. I usually use Iron Crust, but I thought this might be a flatter experience. But I really was struggling with this and my ice cream paddle pop and applying it everywhere. I was really worried I was going to get it on the model, which I did a tiny bit. So I switched to using a toothpick, and I'm just kind of manually moving it around, just trying to get a good coverage on the base. I did kind of get a little bit on the model, but in a way it kind of makes it look like it's slithering through the sand and dust, so I didn't really hate it. Adminstraturm Grey is the next color that I'm using, and I'm just painting over that little bit of decoration with it, just to kind of give it a nice, you know, white color. But then I use Searphim Sepia to weather it, because it looks too pristine. And this is just meant to be a little bit of ruins. And then I use Agrax Earthshade, which is a brown shade, and I go over all of the bronze in the model with this color. And I find that it kind of just darkens it a little bit, but also gives it a living metal finish that I quite like, and I think makes the Necrons look a little bit more interesting than just like a plasticky toy. And then I did a bit of shade on the base. And so Nuln Oil is just the black shade, so I put this over the silver areas just to kind of darken it a little bit, and again make it more of a weathered look to it. And then I also just did a bit of the spine just to fill in the cracks. Then I noticed there's 2 skulls in the little ruins, so I use Rakarth Flesh to color those in, just so that they don't blend in with the stone. Like, I don't want it to be mistaken as their stone skulls. These are actual human skulls that are part of the grimdark universe, and yeah, I want them to kind of pop out a little bit. So I'm painting them with this color, which kind of dries to a bony color when it does. I'm also being very careful not to put too much paint on to lose the details. So with the Astrogranite, I go over it with a dry brush of Dechala Lilac and Phoenician Purple, just to try and give it a little bit of an alien texture to it. I actually really struggle with my dry brushing. I either have almost nothing or I have too much, and I really struggle to just get the perfect amount. I think this time it's probably a little bit too little, but I was happy with it because it's better than too much. Some of my bases just kind of end up looking purple, which is not really the vibe that I'm going for. And so then I'm just cleaning up the rim here with some Abaddon Black, just doing some thin coats. And then it's still, the base looked a little boring still, so I have this Gamer Grass Alien Turquoise 6mm and some PVA glue. My load balancing grass fell there, which I should have probably moved out of the way, and some tweezers here would have been very helpful, but I just used my fingers to put into place, and then I grabbed the toothpick from before and I'm just trying to position it. So this is the finished product. I'm really kind of happy with how it turned out. I think the bandy snake kind of theme is quite unique, and I think that's a really cool model. Though the idea of painting another 2 of these guys to get a full unit is a little bit intimidating for a beginner. But if you've made it this far in the video, consider leaving a like or a subscribe. It really helps the channel out. If you hit the notification bell, you'll get a notify every time I drop a new video. And feel free to leave a comment below. I always reply to everybody. Really, as I said, the community is super welcoming. But anyway, let me know what your thoughts are, and until next time, catch you later.
and there's plenty of shrimps on the bar. The least we can do is make sure everyone's smiling.